Joey Gallo.
Welcome into the NSFW Dynasty podcast. I am your host, Dave Reed, joined by my co-host, Ryan Wilkinson. How you doing, man?
We're doing good. We're missing Joe on this podcast. I was hoping he was here. We both made the semis, which would have been nice to have a little back and forth banter, but we miss him, and we hope we'll be back next podcast. But Dave, you're holding it down with the Christmas cheer. For those of you that can't see, he's got a nice Christmas hat on, drinking a little eggnog.
That I am. It's and Christmas trees on the glass. And you know what?
There you go.
I want you all to feel the Christmas spirit too. Let's get it in. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's holiday time and it's fantasy playoff time, baby.
We're in the mood now.
Oh,
that's what I call an intro to a podcast.
That is right. If you're not jacked up right now, drinking some eggnog, I don't know what you're doing. But that's right. We are in the playoffs. Ryan and Joe are both in the second round. If you had a bye, you're finally having to pay attention to your team. I had a bye as well. It's for the toilet bowl, but it's still technically competing. There's a $50 prize, so I'm working at it. But yeah, how are you doing in the rest of your leagues there, Ryan?
Got knocked out of redraft. Had the most points for. Did not get that elusive first round bye. My co-host here stole it from me. And
I did beat you. I beat you twice. So you had a lot of points, but I had them when they counted.
You had the head-to-head record.
That's right.
But yeah, got knocked out of that one. So we're going for the Dynasty Championship.
Yeah, no, Dynasty did not do well for me. I have the other ancillary Dynasty leagues I'm in. I'm doing all right in, but it's all right. It was a kind of a weird week. We got even though we're in week 16, still getting injuries and change-ups in who is starting. So figured we'd jump in quick, give you an update on all the happenings around the league. But because it's the holiday season, we're going to have a little like holiday themed categories that we're going to run through some players on too. But before that, let's get you caught up on everything that happened last week. So first, on the injuries, we'll jump into the quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes has a high ankle sprain, but it does look like he's going to be playing. And reminder, they play on Saturday. I believe there's 2 Saturday games this week. Wentz is the backup. Fortunately, it doesn't seem like they'll have to go to him. Geno Smith also left with a knee injury this past week, and Sam Howell, our man, entered the game and looked horrible. But it does look like Geno will be probably playing this week as well. And Tommy DeVito, who even cares anymore on the Giants? But Tommy DeVito got concussed, left the game, and Tim Boyle, who I'm a Giant fan, I did not even know Tim Boyle was on the roster, came on. But he at least hyper-targeted Neighbors, and Neighbors had a decent game. But going into this week, Drew Lock has been announced as the starter there. But Ryan, with the quarterbacks, any major takeaways for you here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Mahomes is the big name, not what you want going into the playoff semifinals. I mean, if you have a startable QB, do you contemplate putting him in, or is Mahomes an automatic start for you still, Dave, if he plays on Saturday?
I mean, I don't feel great about it. At this point, you probably don't have a lot of options.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And they have a lot to play for still. And both teams do. I think the Texans still have a shot at potentially getting the 3 seed for more home games, not Mahomes games, more homes. But the Chiefs they have the 1 seed, and I think they have a 2-game lead on the Bills, but they need to make sure they keep winning because the Bills they're not losing a game the rest of the year. I think they have a very weak schedule. So,
yeah,
they'll be pushing it still.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's why Mahomes plays if he can. So I agree. I think you got to start him. You probably don't have a better choice. And then, like you said, on the Giants, it just seems to get worse and worse there.
It's all about that top 2 seed, man. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in some of the holiday sections. But jumping into the running backs, there's actually quite a number of names that popped on here the past week. Alvin Kamara, who had a great game and had an amazing touchdown catch. He had left the game with a groin injury, and he's looking very doubtful this week. So Kendre Miller, who's finally getting a chance to play, looks like he might be getting a larger role this week. Nick Chubb broke his foot and now is done for the year. Jerome Ford actually looked great when he stepped in for Chubb. He had, I think, a really long touchdown run as well. It looked real fast. David Montgomery towards MCL. He's out for the year. It's usually a 4 to 6 month recovery, I believe. I did get a notification that he thinks that he could potentially come back in the postseason, so we'll see. But Jahmyr Gibbs is about to go supernova to close out this year. So if you have him, congrats. Isaiah Guerrero, the backup to the backup in San Francisco, has a hamstring injury and unlikely to play this week. And honestly, who cares who the backup is? You're just not playing anyone. You're not going to play. Who was it? Patrick Taylor. I think maybe Debo probably gets more touches, but I don't know. You don't want to be in that situation. Sincere McCormick, who was someone you did not know existed before the season started, was actually pretty useful the last couple of weeks, but now he's on the IR with an ankle injury for the Raiders, for those who don't know who Sincere is. But Alexander Madison looks like he's back and should be the starter. Jaleel McLaughlin has a quad injury and is doubtful this week. Playing right now is the Broncos. It's either Javante or Estime. Honestly, hopefully he didn't have to play either one of them. Tony Pollard was hobbled going into this week. He didn't practice all last week with an ankle. He did come on, but Tajay Spears actually came in and played more snaps and looked really, really good. So they got a really plus matchup this week against the Colts. So maybe Spears gets more work again as Pollard still is a little hobbled. And Kenneth Walker missed his second week, but he did get a practice in today after missing yesterday. So he practiced on Thursday, so he may get to start. Charbonnet has been starting in his absence, but he also is a little bit questionable with an oblique. But that was a long list there, Rye. Any major takeaways from you?
Yeah, long list for this late in the season. That way, you like to see, obviously, the two big ones out for the year, Nick Chubb and David Montgomery. Nick Chubb, poor guy, just
Yeah,
can't catch a break. You feel bad for him. He made the comeback and actually looked decent, and now he's out again for the year. Hopefully, he can try to make another comeback next year. And then Monty was having a great year. You hate to see it for the Lions, who have Super Bowl hopes. Hopefully, Gibbs can carry the load by himself, but I think it's been working so well because they've been working in tandem. They complement each other. They're probably more well rested than a typical running back. So we'll see how it plays out there, but definitely a big injury, not just in fantasy, but for their Super Bowl hopes as well.
yeah. Not just that injury too, but their defense is like they're
Yeah,
pretty
they
much
got a
the
lot.
complete. I think they have like 10 guys on IR. Like almost their entire starting roster from the beginning of the year is on IR. So they're still one of the NFC favorites, but they are not. They won't be able to play like they used to with the defense and the run game.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then McCormick, like you said, was named the starter and immediately went back to the bench and is now done for the year. So Alexander Madison is back. He's been having an okay year. I don't know if you want to fully trust him in the fantasy playoffs, especially since McCormick was named the starter over him before he went down with an injury. But I guess someone has to carry the ball there. So
Yeah,
if you don't
and
have someone else, you could throw him in.
I think they have the Jags. So like if you're desperate, it's a good matchup at least because they are, I think, dead last against the run. So Madison should be useful, but I wouldn't expect anything like a ceiling game out of this guy.
Yeah, no, agreed. It's definitely tough to trust him.
Yeah. And then moving to wide receivers and tight ends, you got Jalen Waddle, who honestly feels like a lost season for him. He has an MCL sprain. He's likely out this week, but that'll just be more targets for Tyreek Echan and Jonnu Smith. Xavier Leggett, he's got a groin injury and is doubtful, but I believe it's Jalen Coker, who had
Yeah.
like a long bomb touchdown. All the cokeheads out there on Reddit are loving it. Whenever Coker goes off, you got to go on Reddit and just follow all the cokeheads, like the biggest Coke memes. It's hilarious. George Pickens missed his second game last week with a hamstring, and he's already ruled out for this week. So honestly, it's annoying because you love watching him on the field, not for his gameplay, just because his antics are just hilarious. Like the guy always does something so stupid, like power bomb a guy, a defender or whatever. So that's what I miss the most out of George Pickens. Hollywood Brown actually returned to practice and could be playing this week, which is pretty surprising. So if you're still alive, like Joey is with Hollywood Brown, you might actually get to use him. And finally, Cedric Tillman from the wide receivers. Concussion, going to miss, I think this is a third or fourth week now. Honestly, I doubt that he plays the rest of this year. And then also on the same team, David Njoku has a hamstring. He missed last week. He's doubtful again this week. I also doubt he probably plays as the Browns are kind of just mailing it in. And finally, Zach Ertz is concussed and very, very questionable to play this week. But any final takeaways from the injuries there, Rye?
I wouldn't say any huge names on the wide receiver side. Waddle really hasn't been having a great year at all, anyways. Hollywood Brown's the interesting one. Again, do you throw him in your lineup? I feel like that's really hard to trust if he does come back and play, but
You got to be desperate.
yeah,
He's got to
you
be
never
deep.
know. Yeah, but he's an option, I guess, if you need someone.
He is an option. I think that's how you phrase it. He's an option. He's not
not
the
not
option.
not one you want, but
Here's
he's
a
an option.
long list. He's on the list.
So yeah, so some crazy injuries. Hopefully, they don't impact anyone's fantasy playoffs. But that's why you got a bench.
Yeah, and then not just losing players to injuries, but you're going to be losing players to the bench here. We got three starters who lost their job this past week, and new players are stepping up. So Kirk Cousins was benched for Michael Penix. The rookie's finally getting a start. Jameis Winston was benched for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. As I mentioned, the Browns are mailing it in. And Will Levis was benched for Mason Rudolph. So that's a trio of QBs that people hopefully have not all been relying on because none of them have been that great. Winston had some moments, but and potentially giving options for players who didn't have quarterbacks. But what are the major takeaways, or what are thoughts on the quarterbacks who lost their jobs or the quarterbacks who are now getting a shot? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you were relying on any of those quarterbacks, you probably aren't in the playoffs or probably got eliminated in the playoffs because they did not do well last week.
No, they did not.
But yeah, I mean, we got to talk about Kirk Cousins, the $180 million man. I mean, between Watson and Kirk now, do you think teams learn it's not worth paying these guys that are coming back from
And Rogers.
some type of issue? And Rodgers, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it hasn't really worked out for any team that has given a huge guaranteed contract to a big name quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, technically, the Broncos even got screwed with Wilson, even though he's looking good now. For the Steelers are paying him like $2 million. So yeah, it's brutal. I mean, it'll be really funny if the Falcons go because I think they have a shot at the playoffs still or winning the division.
They do. I think that's why they're making the move.
Yeah, they're making the move, and like if they make a playoff run after all the jokes people have been making about them using their what was it like the 8th or 10th pick on Penix, where there's
Yeah.
like you have Kirk all this money, you like compete for now, and then Penix is the reason why they succeed because Cousins sucks. It'll be quite the about face from all those haters there. So that'll be really comical in my opinion. Um,
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see Penix and see what he can do. There's been some talk from some players. I think I read something where they were saying he's the best quarterback in the building on the team. So,
well,
you know, we'll see what happens.
Daniel Jones would be the best quarterback in the building in that team. Come on,
Yeah.
like Kirk Cousins has been god awful. Like that's not a high bar.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I'd love to see if they make the playoffs with
Yeah,
him. But if you took him in the rookie draft, you get to
yeah,
get a good look
yeah.
at him.
He was a later pick, so it could turn into something. The Jameis Winston benching kills me because mainly because Jerry Judy was turning into something, and I was just talking about him last pod. This kills him. Like I don't. I'm very skeptical if you can even start him because Dorian Thompson Robinson is god awful. I was seeing some of his stats when he was a starter last year. I don't think he had more than like 150 or 160 passing yards. No wide receiver had more than 60 receiving yards at all. I don't think their team scored more than like 15 points ever when he was starting. He's just god awful. He's a third or fourth string quarterback. So this stinks because even though Winston obviously has the bonehead plays, he creates fantasy points, and that's what we care about right now. And Judy was looking like a real potential league winner, and that kind of just poofed to dust. So that one hurts.
Yeah, I mean, Winston had a horrific week last week. I think he finished with negative fantasy points. It
Yeah,
was so bad.
it was not good.
Yeah, but like you said, 3 weeks ago, I think he scored 40 fantasy points. He threw three interceptions, but he also threw four touchdowns. So he was a guy that would just sling it, and you liked to have your fantasy wide receivers tied to him. But I think they're kind of just packing up the season. I don't know why you really make the switch. I feel like it doesn't have much of an impact, and neither one is the long term answer. But I guess they want to see what Robinson has.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're just trying to make sure they don't win any games by accident. But another couple calls. Well, I guess I want sticking with quarterbacks real quick. I just want to just say Josh Allen is the best football player on the planet right now. The guy he's the MVP. It's not even close now. I think the odds have gone to like minus 2,000 at this point. He is just he does everything and like I've never like the things he does in the field. He literally is an alien. Like Josh Alien is what they're calling him. He's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's not just the stats, but he's fun to watch, and the
Oh
stuff
yeah,
he's doing in the game is just crazy. I mean, every drive he just touches the ball and it's some insane play, and he's scoring touchdowns. He just makes it look so easy right now. It's really
everywhere. It's like
crazy.
back. It looks like backyard football, but this guy is so big. So if I think they said they clocked him at like 16, 17 miles per hour running sideways and throwing a bomb down the field right on target for like
Yeah,
it's like the guy's insane. Yeah,
he's not real.
he's not real. We'll get to this I'm sure later too, but it's starting to feel like it might be the Bills' year, the way things are turning around for him, and he is like leveling up where Mahomes looks like he's hobbled a little bit, and the Ravens look like they have some holes potentially. I mean, Lamar's been great as well, but Josh Allen is like really leveling this up, especially when you like look at the roster around him. You didn't think this was like an elite roster, and they put up nearly 50 points last week.
Yeah, so I was going to bring it up. I'm glad you brought up the Ravens. It is interesting that although Josh Allen is the MVP, Lamar Jackson does have more fantasy points than him, and that's with Josh Allen having 45 fantasy points last week and 61 fantasy
Yeah,
points the week
well,
before that. Lamar Jackson still has 30-ish more points than Josh Allen on the
I
year.
mean, Lamar Jackson was the favorite for the MVP. Like I think up until like 3 4 weeks ago, he was because he was on fire to start the year. But I do think how you close the year usually has a little bit of bias in the MVP voting as well as games start to matter a bit more. But I mean, Lamar
Yeah.
has. But this has been Lamar's best year. Lamar's won the MVP, and this season is significantly better than his MVP season, especially from a passing perspective. He's like I
Yeah.
forgot what the
I
stats
mean,
of he's throwing. I think like 70% of his points this year come from passing versus running, where it was like flipped when he won the MVP.
yeah, I mean, literally last week he was QB3 with almost 50 fantasy points. He threw 5 touchdowns. I mean,
Yeah,
granted, it was against the Giants, but still throwing 5 touchdowns isn't easy. But I think that's all just been overshadowed by Josh Allen having these superhuman plays on the field, and it just
he,
makes you root for him,
he's
and he's
yeah
going to
he's
get the
doing it
MVP.
all, and he also has less talent around him. I think that's the other factor for the
Yeah,
MVP. Like I don't if they flip teams, I don't think Lamar puts up what Josh Allen's doing there. So I think that's the difference.
yeah.
Yeah, a couple other shout outs. Rico Dowdo, he had his third straight great game with over 100 yards rushing, and week has put up more rushing yards. It went from 112 to 131 to 149. Just giving a shout out in case that was like a deeper like target for running back and going into the playoffs. Looks like someone you can really rely on. Brian Thomas Jr., right? BTJ,
Mhm.
probably the best rookie wide receiver this year. I'm not saying for Dynasty he's the number one rookie out of this class, but for the rookie season, guy's incredible. He's scoring touchdowns nonstop. Then the offense runs through him. Devontae Adams went nuts this past week. Of course, I think he had 0 points at half, and then finished the game with 40 fantasy points. It was absolutely ridiculous. And then on the downside, Jonathan Taylor disappointed again. This is one of the guys I was shying away from. I think he's like the running back like 30 or something in that range. And he had it would be higher if he held on to the football for an extra second because he's running in for a touchdown and dropped it. I don't know why people do this. Just don't drop it until you're out of the end zone. Like just hold on until you're out.
It literally makes no sense. We've seen so many guys
So
do it.
many, two
You're
people did it
one
this
step
past.
short from the end zone. Just hold the ball
Just
till
hold
you
on
are
to it.
100%
Exactly.
in the end zone.
It
It
doesn't
makes
make
no sense.
no sense. And then finally, Bucky Irving showed out again, even though he had like a back injury. Guys looking electric this year. And then Josh Jacobs looks like a potential league winner as well. In the last 7 weeks he's played, he's been a top six running back 6 of the 7 weeks. Like not top six. That's winning. The guy is dominating right now. So I know that was someone we were talking about. Would you pay a first? I said a first plus. If you got him for a first, you'd be very happy right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, he definitely seems like a league winner. He's been unbelievable. And I think we almost undervalued him a couple podcasts ago when we were talking about him because, yeah, he's just been
Not we,
showing out.
you and Joe. You and Joe did. I was all in on him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's looked the part, and is going to win some people some fantasy championships if he keeps it up. And then,
Yeah.
like you said, Bucky Irving has looked great. That's been a huge pickup for anyone that has him. And then I have to give a little biased shout out to Brian Thomas Jr. There. Definitely looking like a stud. Hopefully he can keep it up. But
Man,
yeah, he's been having a really good year.
how many trade offers did I send you this offseason for him?
I think we've
I
got like 10 rejected trade offers for
I
Brian
I
Thomas
tried
Jr.
so hard because I had a feeling I was like I need this guy on my roster. I also have Trevor Lawrence. I'm like I want the stack, and I was like if week when one comes and he's not on my roster, I'm not getting this guy, and it just never happened. I'm like I'm never getting this guy now.
Yeah, we knew you wanted him with the stack, but we were hoping he would turn out like he has. We also needed a wide receiver, so we just had to hang on to him.
Hey, it paid off. It was the right move, right? I don't blame you at all.
Yeah, it's worked out.
But with that, we're gonna jump into our holiday segment. I'm gonna hit you with that holiday music one more time. Ready? Don't get scared.
Yep, get us pumped.
Oh, it's gonna keep going. Yeah. Well, oh, almost again. No, turn off. So yeah, we figured at the holiday season, we're gonna have some categories here and name some players and tell why they're fitting this category. And we're gonna start with the best dynasty present of the year, or because it's just Ryan, I might Riff might give you more than one. But Ryan, what do you think has been one of the best dynasty presents of the year so far?
So for me personally, I'm going with Derrick Henry becoming a top two running back on the Ravens. Currently only behind Barkley by about 40 points, and that's with Saquon having a historic year. Henry has been less productive the last few weeks, but regardless, I'm sure he got a lot of teams to the playoffs, and he wasn't seen as valuable as he's been this year. Last year, I know we traded a second round pick for him. I can't remember if there was another player involved, but you could get him for that type of value last year, and this year he's been, a one or two running back throughout most of the year. So that's been a huge Christmas present to me.
Yeah, and honestly, and you kind of alluded to it. I think Henry falls into it, but I think it's just the older running backs providing so much value this year too. Like Henry obviously leading
Yeah,
that with Barkley and like Joe Mixon, these guys that, to your point, you could
Kamara.
have got Kamara. Like these guys are winning you championship, and like they're the players that are you got for cheaper than they should because people just don't value older running backs, especially in dynasty. And like this is the type of guys you need to win. But Derrick Henry obviously showing out big time. So
Yeah,
yeah, you won out big time. Everyone thought it was like, oh, it's a one and done. Like these guys, they usually last like another. Everyone's like, oh, they're done after this year. It's like, are they? They stick around for maybe two more years.
yeah, and being on the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, I feel like it's not only helped him, but maybe it will help him also have a little bit of a longer career because Jackson also takes so much of the attention. But yeah, it's definitely been a nice Christmas present.
Yeah, I would definitely say so, man. I'm jealous I don't have them. I'll jump in on one. My main present. I have a couple other ones that I'll get to in a bit, but the main one I want to throw out, and I don't really have any shares of this, but it's just been fun to watch. At least in Dynasty, I don't have any shares. Is the Jaden Daniels to Terry McLaurin connection? Jaden Daniels, like when you draft a rookie running back, we all have the hype of the rushing ability. And we see that all the time with tons of quarterbacks come out as like, oh, they'll be good, but they're not good passers. But Jaden Daniels was like the most accurate quarterback coming out of this rookie class, but we knew that, but we kind of just overlooked like, oh, he's just going to run, and he didn't look great the first couple of weeks. But my God, he's been incredible. He's just so good. You watch him; he's so much fun to watch. He's so slippery. The cuts he makes is so much fun, and he provides so much value. But the biggest thing is that Terry McLaurin is getting such better production. He's been like a player that we've always been excited for and knew that like if he just had a quarterback, he'd be so much better. But he's just been stuck at that wide receiver two range. And finally, with Jaden Daniels, it's unlocking him. And I'm just quickly looking up right now. He's had in previous years, he's had no more than, other than his rookie year, 5 touchdowns. So he's had going back to 2020, it was 4 touchdowns. 2021, five, then four. This year, he's already at 11 touchdowns, and he's the wide receiver five already. And it's so obviously seeing the rookie come to fruition and come paying off, but then giving this wide receiver who is like 27 or something finally the ability to show what he could be with a good quarterback. That to me is a fantasy present. I don't have again the shares of this in Dynasty, but I'm just happy to see that. This is what you hope for when you see these wide receivers in these crappy situations with these crappy quarter, like the DJ Moores forever. You're just like, man, if only you had a quarterback, and like it's finally happening, and it's one of the most electric quarterbacks in the league. So I think that's been one of the best dynasty presents of the year.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, look at you giving props to both of your co-hosts, as Joe has Jaden Daniels and I have Terry McLaurin there. And yeah, like you said, I feel like
I
everyone
retract my present.
I feel like everyone always did talk about McLaurin like that, and it's been nice to see him actually get a quarterback that can throw the ball. And he's had over 20 points the last 3 weeks. Hopefully, he keeps it going in the playoffs. And obviously, Jaden Daniels has been on fire and is leading Joe's charge towards the championship as well. So
That's right. But this next one, Ryan, is another one that I think is one of the best presents that most people have opened this year.
yeah, so Brock Bowers, I had to throw him in there. Tight end one on the year. Hopefully, he doesn't have a regression like Sam Laporta has had this year, but he's been incredible. And anyone that spent that high rookie draft capital on him opened themselves up a nice present this year. I think the way he's looked, I think it's going to continue. I don't think we'll see a regression. Laporta is on a team with a lot more weapons. I feel like Bowers is the weapon on that team. And so it looks like you got a steal if you got him at the back half of the first round. I know he went a little earlier in ours, but he wasn't looked at as a top 3, top 4 super flex pick, and he's proven himself that he should have.
Yeah, I mean, I have full faith in Bowers going forward. He's definitely the tight end one in Dynasty. And like, he was doing this at like, what, like 19, 20 years old in the SEC? Like, we all knew that we were excited. Then we saw the picture of him, and he didn't look that strong or like that muscular. We're like, yeah, maybe he's not there. No, he's unbelievable as a tight end. The guy's uncoverable. So, yeah, for anyone who held steadfast in their belief that he is a generational tight end talent, you definitely got quite the present. Um, for me, there's a couple names I just want to run through. One of them I just want to give a shout out is just Bo Nix, because I feel like rookie quarterbacks, whenever in this game, like everyone, especially Superflex, you're always hoping that you hit on the rookie quarterback, and too often we miss. Like I feel like a lot of the rookies kind of disappoint. Where Bo Nix, you had very low expectations. Yeah, the age, he's played more star quarterback in the college than any player ever, and he didn't have like an electric arm, even though he came in as like a freshman as like one of the most touted prospects. He's looking great right now. He's been incredibly useful. And like, I know I've rode his success in a few other leagues like all year long, even in redraft. So I just want to give a shout out because that was something that you did not expect to really rely on this year. And he's paid off big time. He's been honestly a QB1 the back half of the season.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a top 10 fantasy quarterback right now,
yeah,
and
he's
you
been
definitely weren't expecting that.
I'm playing him right now in redraft, and I'm not happy about it because he's already got 2 touchdowns at half. Like, yeah, he's been great, and they're
Yeah.
playing against like good defenses. So, like, yeah, don't. So he's been definitely a present there because you didn't have high expectations. A couple other guys are overlooked players. I actually had both of these guys on my roster, traded one away, but love both these guys. I want to give a shout out. So I gave my co-host some props. I want to give myself some props. So John O. Smith, both these guys, not only were they rushed, I literally picked them up in the offseason out of free agency. So there is value to be had there. So John O. Smith, um, what is he, like the tight end 3 in the year? The guy is
Tight
the
end 4. Yeah.
4. He's like the focal point of the Dolphins offense, and he's always been fast and had the hype. And we've seen this with a few tight ends like David Njoku. They just take a couple years to finally like way longer than you think they should, like 4 or 5 years to finally show up. And John Smith's been incredible. Like the offense has flown through him, and maybe Arthur Smith knew what he was doing in Atlanta by feeding John Smith the ball last year. And like we're a tight end premium league. Like he's not just like a tight end. He's a flex guy. Like he's better than a lot of wide receivers. He's been incredible. So I think that's been a huge present. Wasn't expecting that from anyone. Again, for me, I picked him out of free agency. And the other guy who I got out of free agency is Juwan Jennings, who like he looked like he could just be a spot start if players got hurt and that happened. But players like Ayuk was on the field with him, Debo was on the field, and Jennings is the wide receiver one for this team, and I think he will continue to be that going into next year. Ayuk still has the money, but he's coming back from injury. Who knows how he's going to recover from that? Debo looks done. So Juwan Jennings has been awesome this year, and you can continue to play him if you're still in the playoffs and maybe win the championship. But I think he's someone who's going to actually hold value. He signed an extension in the offseason. The team loves him as well, and he should be around for I think another 2 years after this. So that's someone who like a lot of these players too. I feel like. Obviously not the rookies, but sometimes you pick up players, they're like a 1 year useful case, and you're like, all right, they're working right now just in the season. Things fell the right way. Jennings is, I feel like, is different. Like he's going to hold value, I believe, and I'm pretty excited about him.
Yeah, both great pickups for sure. Like you said, Jennings was kind of thought as this guy that maybe if something happened to Debo and Ayuk, he could get some touches, but for whatever reason, the two of them have looked terrible this year, and Jennings has been the guy. So definitely seems like he'll have some value going forward. And then Smith, I'm just going to read you his last 5 weeks. He has 30 fantasy points, 23, 20, 15, 20. I mean,
Yeah,
that's incredible for a tight
incredible.
end.
That's
So if you have him,
if your running back did that, if your quarterback did that, you'd be like, okay, that's good enough. I could get by with that.
and on a team with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, it's just amazing
He
what's going
scored
on there.
significantly more than both of them, honestly, probably combined.
Probably, yeah. It's been nuts. So if you got him, you've been very lucky as well, and hopefully you're riding his coattails to the playoffs.
That's right. But on the flip side, we're going to talk about some dynasty coal in the stocking. So this can go a lot of different ways. Some of them more unfortunate, but I'll start off. And one of them, I'm just going to start because I got to rip the Band-Aid off. I made a bad call in the offseason uh, about who I thought was going to really step up. Jalen Polk is not doing anything
He's
but
not the guy.
he's not doing what I thought he should be doing, and I don't get it. I feel like part of it is deployment and how the team is using him. Um, if that sounds like an excuse for me not being wrong, I'm gonna it's a little bit, but still I should have saw that coming. It's the Patriots, so like he that one stinks. I still think there is a path forward for him because unless like there's like not a lot of threats on the Patriots roster, and I like Drake May a lot. I think he does look like a legit quarterback for the NFL. But I do think the Patriots are going to invest heavily in a wide receiver one this year. If T. Higgins hits the free market, I think they're going to go hard after him. But yeah, my call for Jalen Polk wrong. That was definitely calling the stocking there. So yeah, I'm ripping it off. Being honest, that's what we do here.
Hey, you're manning up to your mistakes.
Yeah,
Yeah, he just hasn't looked the part. Obviously, when you're on a team that's just overall horrible, it's tough to produce fantasy numbers. So maybe it turns around if the team turns around next year a little bit, but definitely not looking promising.
I feel like he has like one catch over 5 yards. He has like multiple touchdowns, but everything is like 3 yards down. I'm like, what is going on? Use him in the slot. I think they just keep using him as an outside receiver, and that is not his skill set. But I
Yeah.
digress. I was wrong. I don't want to live in this moment anymore. Moving on.
Yeah. So for me, I'm actually going to pour one out for one of our league members, Mr. Scott Rapizzotti,
Mm.
who had Darnell Mooney and Cooper Cup both give him two huge lumps of coal at the worst possible time.
That's not. Those were not coals. That was straight turds in the stocking.
Yeah, it was
I'd rather have coal.
it was a brutal showing
Yeah.
for anyone that had them in either of their playoff lineup. Completely unexpected. They had been doing well, and they're not the guys that you would think would put up a goose egg like that. So throwing that out there. But for me, I also had high hopes for Jordan Love. I picked him as a dynasty riser when we started the season. That pretty much turned into a lump of coal. He's currently the QB 13 on the year, which isn't terrible, but he's only had two top 10 weeks, so he hasn't been winning you much by himself. I still think there's a decent long-term dynasty QB, but hasn't made much progress toward the next tier this year. So owning up to my call a little bit there, where he hasn't killed you, but he definitely hasn't won you the league.
That hurts less than mine, for sure.
It was a better call than Polk for sure, but
Yeah.
he hasn't turned into a guy who, at the end of last year, you were hoping could potentially be a top 5 dynasty QB, and maybe a little bit of injury derailed him, but he hasn't
Honestly,
looked great.
I think one of the biggest factors is Josh Jacobs too. Is just stealing all the touches.
Yeah,
The whole
that's true
offense,
too.
and that kind of leads into one of the guys I just want to call is Jaden Reed, who like one of the reasons I think he hurts you most is that the first like what 6 weeks, he was like the wide receiver 3. He was dominating. So you're like, this is everything you hope for. Is a guy that I believed in. I was like, yes, he's doing what I thought he would do. So you just kept rolling him out there. And even when he kept not showing up, and he had a goose 2 weeks ago, like, so Jaden Reed is like someone who I still believe in the talent, but they're just not utilizing him or targeting him down the field, or honestly putting him on the field. So that's tough because the beginning of the season still reminds you just how explosive he can be, and it's so hard to bench a guy that's like he can be the wide receiver 1 any week. So
Yeah.
you roll him out and he burns you, and that's kind of in line with Love. Love's just not getting the touchdowns either because they're going to
Yeah.
Jake.
Again, Jaden Reed, he's wide receiver 15 on the year. So it's not like the both of them have been terrible. It's just they're not at the level that you
Well,
thought they could be when they started the season. Because Jordan Love, same thing. I think he had 2 weeks where he had over 30 fantasy points in the first 4 weeks. So same thing. You were thinking like, this is a QB I can rely on this year. And it's just kind of gone a little bit downhill. And you're right. Maybe it's been Josh Jacobs. So we talked about him earlier, stealing a lot of touchdowns, looks like a league winner himself. They're riding the hot hand and it's been working out.
yeah, I mean Jaden Reed is wide receiver 15, but he has been since like week 6. He was a wide receiver 10 in week 13, and like pretty much he's been outside. Like I think he had one other week inside the top 20, and then he's been outside like the top 50 3 times. Like he's been pretty bad if you take out
Yeah.
his first like 4 weeks. But I still believe in him. But yeah, he's hurt you this year. A couple other guys I want to call out. One of them I think we earlier in the season, or maybe the off season, we actually did warn against CJ Stroud. He has had quite the sophomore slump. You were so hot and bothered after the back half of his rookie year, but he has been just straight up bad. You cannot start CJ Stroud. He was looking like a top. Honestly, I think he was being drafted like a top 3 dynasty quarterback. He is pushing to be outside the top 10 right now. He's just not useful. Like he's young, he's a good player, but for fantasy points, and this is kind of what the argument was. He doesn't run. So he needs to have like the Joe Burrow type of seasons that Joe Burrow's having now and typically has, where he's throwing like 35 plus touchdowns, like 4,500 yards. He's not doing that. Some of it was Nico Collins being out, but Nico's been back the past couple of weeks and he has not been really showing up. So yeah, he feels like more like in Superflex, he is going to be your QB1 most likely at how your roster is constructed. But if he was more your QB2, I think you'd be more comfortable. But I feel like he's cold for what your expectations of a top 3, top 5 quarterback was, and I don't think he's going to ever live up there. He might have like 1 or 2 seasons that pop up there again if touchdowns go his way, but I think reality is kind of set in. And then the other one is Jonathan Brooks, kind of self-explanatory, but just got to say, like you spent a first-round rookie draft pick on this guy. You thought there's no way his value could go down. You were like, all right, he'll get in. Hubbard will whatever go back to the bench. Hubbard now is the lead back, looks great, signed extension, and Brooks has retore his same ACL late in the season. You're probably not going to get him all next season either, and it's going to be very hard to see a path forward of relevance again for this player, at least from like a dynasty perspective. I don't think his
Yeah.
career is over, but his value is like plummeted.
Yeah, no, definitely tough for Brooks. I don't think anyone would really trade you much for him right now and take a chance on him because, like you said, it's murky if he even has path forward after this. And then Stroud, I was just looking out of his last 8 games that he's played, he's finished as a QB 24 or worse 6 of the 8 games. So
Yeah,
he's been killing you.
you cannot start Stroud. Like he is
Yeah,
very bad.
it's been bad. One more I'll throw out there, Dave, just because we traded for him right before Prescott went down for the year, and then he
You
also
could
got injured.
you could have had Jono Smith.
We could have had John
I
Smith.
tried to trade you to him multiple times.
It would have been much better than
Yeah.
Jake Ferguson, who has turned into a huge lump of coal.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully turns it around next year when Prescott's back. But yeah, been a huge piece of coal the last half of the season.
Yeah, yeah. He's no other way. He's been a Turgidson.
Yeah.
It's there. You knew what I was doing.
I know what weird you were playing on there.
You know what I got. Turd Ferguson. That's what.
There you go.
It's funny because it's bigger than a normal size hat. But yeah, moving on though to a little bit more positive thinking here. Let's put it out in the universe. going into the new year, what is a new year resolution wish that you'd like to see in the offseason or potentially closing out the current season as well?
Well, Dave, you hit on it earlier. I'm hoping for a Buffalo Bills Super Bowl victory.
Yeah, that'd be
I
fun.
just think I think it's deserved at this point. I'd love to see Josh Allen win it, have him on my fantasy team, so I've kind of become a fan of Josh Allen even more so than before, and I just think it'd be cool to see. Detroit Lions also wouldn't mind, feel like they're very deserving, but I think the Bills actually have the team to be able to win it. And I hope if they run into the Chiefs, they take them down and win the Super Bowl this year. That's my wish.
Bills Lions Super Bowl would be incredible too, and I agree. I think the Bills fans like deserve it more than anyone else. Like they've gone through a lot. Of the four Super Bowls where they lost consecutively, but also like the fans are literally one of the best fan bases out there, the most fun fan bases. And yeah, the team is just like, so much fun to see. And you've seen the pain that Josh Allen has gone through.
Yeah.
On
I
like
feel like he literally can't handle another playoff exit. Like he's just
not
been
like that.
beaten down every year.
And the thing that like because what they lost like a 2 3 weeks ago, and he even put it on sub. He's like, I gotta make better plays. Like he owns everything, and like that's also one of the reasons why I think everyone just like loves Josh Allen. Like he's gone through defeat, and he never passes the blame on anything else. It's like no, tell me like I have. It's always no matter what he has takes upon himself to do better. If his defense gives up the points, it's like no, I should have scored 60. Like and he means it. Like I need to
Yeah.
do everything to win this game, and he truly believes that's his responsibility. So yeah, I'd love to see that. Plus, he just got engaged. The guy, I feel like this is his year. Like things are just going his way. These are when things all come together, right?
Yeah. I mean, since he got engaged, he's been on fire scoring touchdowns like crazy. So, maybe there's something to it. So hopefully we'll see that. He's a good guy to root for. And then, Dave, let's hear your wish. I think it involves your team as well.
Yeah, but for the other direction. If you can't win a Super Bowl, hopefully you're drafting early.
Hopefully you're
So
winning something else.
Hopefully run something else. Hopefully they get the top pick. But I just want to get the New York Giants to draft and pick the right. If there is the because there's two top quarterbacks and the Giants have the top two pick, whether it's Sanders or Ward, just get the right quarterback, a good quarterback, just for this team to turn around and start believing in something. But to give Malik Neighbors someone to like really get him the ball and show out what he can do. Like he's going to finish the season with the most targets and receptions of any rookie ever. But it's still on such a bad team. Like if he had that like on a good quarterback, he would have like he scored his first touchdown since like September, and like he would have probably like another 500 yards. The guy is an elite talent, and I'm so excited to see what he could potentially do with like a really good quarterback. So fingers crossed that that happens. Um,
Yeah, that'd be nice to see. I think he turns
please
into a wide receiver one if they do draft the right quarterback there. So it could
Not
have
just
some
that,
good.
he could be the wide receiver one in a year.
Yeah,
Like I would not surprise me with his talent.
yeah. And then going back to fantasy, Trey McBride, the
Yeah,
guy has to score some touchdowns eventually, right?
dude. I think that he also is breaking another record for the most receptions in a season without a receiving touchdown.
It's crazy.
He's got two touchdowns, a fumble recovery touchdown and a rushing touchdown, but he has no receiving touchdowns.
It's
It's
literally
crazy.
insane.
And they
Uh,
try to. They
I know.
team it up and they keep going. And Kyler Murray's like, nope.
It's not for lack of trying. The guy's still having an incredible year, which is the I guess you'd say scary part if you don't own him, great part if you do own him, because you throw a couple touchdowns in there,
Oh, he's
and I mean he's the tight end one by a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean he is already the tight end three with no receiving touchdowns. It's like yeah,
Yeah,
you give him like four touchdowns, which is also annoying. So this is a personal thing. I did there was this I think it was FanDuel DraftKings. It was like a promo where you get boosts if you do a receiving touchdown parlay. So you had to pick multiple players that have over a certain amount of touchdowns. I did Terry McLaurin, nailed that. Datavi Wicks, which I think he needs like one more. JSN, which I think he needs like one more, and Trey McBride, who has zero to get like 4 or 5 touchdowns. I'm like, but he should have this number. Like, how did you not get that number from him?
it
Like,
should already
McBride's
have
gonna
it.
be the one leg that doesn't hit, and he should have it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Another tight end we traded for, so we're hoping he turns it around. But we'll see.
Yeah, love that one. Two others that I have the wish. One of them is a quick one, just keeping on the tight ends. It's just Kyle Pitts to hopefully have the career arc of like David Njoku or Jono Smith, where like maybe it just takes 5 years or so to finally figure it out in the field. Because he's someone that a lot of people have invested a lot in of draft capital or in trades to get him earlier in his career. He's still only 24, so like I mean, he's got like another 8 years of being a tight end in the NFL. So like, just figure it out there. Um, so
Yeah.
that's one wish. See there, and then the other one is another rookie, or future rookie, Ashton Gianti, whatever, the guy at Boise State, that running back. I'll get his name right before we do the rookie preview, I promise. But that he gets drafted or ends up on a team, something like the Chargers or something. I know the Cowboys are a favorite for him as well. I think the Chargers would be even better, but like just a team that is like designed for running, because he is an unbelievable talent. He doesn't catch a ton of passes out of the backfield, but if someone who's committed to the run, I think Gianti again, I'll figure it out, would be an absolute stud. And he honestly might be like the one-on-one in a lot of rookie drafts this upcoming year.
Yeah, he looks incredible. I was just going to throw that question out to you. It's obviously super early, but right now, would you take him at your 101?
So I mean, obviously, Superflex overvalues quarterbacks a bit, pushes things up. Um,
And
he
Joe
is
Joe took Bijan Robinson with the 101.
Yeah, and I don't. Well, Bijan, I don't think he's Bijan level, because Bijan could catch the ball as well. But honestly, he's like a similar tiers, if anything, a half tier below. But like his rushing ability is just insane. I unless I was like desperate for a quarterback, I probably would. But the other thing too is like people say that Ward and Sanders are not even. They wouldn't have been a top three quarterback in this past class. Like they would be behind May, and honestly, who knows if they'd even be ahead of Nixon, asking what he's doing. So it's hard to say. Like there's a lot of bust potential where Giannis seems like a very safe bet. So unless like I was desperate for a quarterback, I probably would go with him, just because he seems like a surefire bet to be like a stud running back.
Yeah.
And the wide receiver class is okay. Tight ends, and it's not bad. It's just it seems like it's okay. Like the past couple ones were like insane. And the tight end class is looking pretty solid. I don't think there's a Bowers, but I think there's some pretty interesting prospects. Again, I haven't gotten into all the rookies. I've just been like starting to get some of that data, but he seems, from what I've seen on like Reddit, almost everyone's like pretty much set on him being a top, at worst, two pick, but probably the top overall pick.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. A little rookie preview for everyone.
Yeah, we're gearing up. We're getting there. Going to get into the offseason soon enough. But people still have their playoffs to get through. So good luck with that. We don't want to lose focus there.
Yeah. Keep it going if you're in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, and with that, I want to give a little shout out to our league and a little update on how our playoffs are going on right now. So, as Ryan mentioned, he moved on in his matchup against Clarksville with a dominating score, one of the highest scores of the year. So, his team knows what time it is and turned it up. But he's going to be facing Mike Williams in quite the duel coming up right now. It's pretty high projections. How you feeling about your matchup, Ryan?
We're feeling good. I feel like we definitely have a chance. Obviously, you never know. Patrick Mahomes is kind of a wild card there. They have him, so it'll be interesting to see if he is 100% healthy. Um, so
But
yeah, we're feeling good.
but who do you have?
We have this guy named Josh Allen, Dave.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if you've heard of him, but
He's
yeah,
okay.
putting Mahomes against him, they better hope he's 100% healthy.
Yeah, you're looking pretty strong right now, right?
Yeah, we're
and
feeling good.
and then on the other side, Joey snuck in again. He didn't exactly win. Scott's team had two goose eggs, unfortunately. My condolences, Scott, have been there. So Joey slipped in, but he'll take it. Let's be real. So Joey's moving on and playing against the defending champ in Schluter. And honestly, it's going to be pretty tight there. I don't know which one I feel more comfortable with. Each team has a lot of flaws, so it's kind of a coin flip to me.
Yeah, definitely interesting. I went with Joe to make it to the finals on our last podcast, so I'm going to stick with it. He does have the Hertz and Jaden Daniels quarterback combination, which I like. But yeah, I mean, Schluter's team, champion last year, you can't count him out, and has had a good season this year. So be a close matchup.
Schluter's, I don't want to go against Schluter because I feel like whenever you bet against Schluter's, it goes his way. So I'm just not going to put it out there. I'm not going to say that Schluter's going to win because Schluter, you're going to win. You got this. I believe in you. Yeah, and then the toilet bowl championship, Canelos eked by Adam, who put up a pretty strong push at the end of their matchup, but he's going by and playing I should say Dirty Work, DJ Dirty Work, who does the music for our pod, but he also goes by Harrison and Dan DeCosta we got here, so that'll be an interesting matchup. I see Canelos is already putting up a pretty decent score where he's got some players going, so we'll see how that ends up, but who you got in that matchup, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. He has Bo Nix and he also has Herbert. So both of them are going right now. Herbert not looking great. Bo Nix looking awesome. So I'm probably going to stick with who I went with last week. Again, I said Canales was going to defend his title, so I'm sticking with it.
All right. And that moves to the final matchup. Your boy, Dave, right here. I had a bye. No big deal. And moving on and playing Matt Rosinski and Dan Rosinski, really Dan Rosinski, right now. And honestly, I'm picking myself because it's me, but I don't feel great about it. But how do you feel about my chances, Ryan?
You had that elusive toilet bowl bye that everyone wants.
Everyone covets, man. They work all year for that.
I don't know. I think it's going to be a close one. I don't love your quarterback situation, Cooper Rush in there.
I haven't loved it either.
So we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think I'm playing Chig in my flex, so that's always what you want. But it's going to work out, guys. It's a Hail Mary play. But with that, any final thoughts, Ryan?
Now, good luck to everyone that's still in the playoffs, and to everyone else, good luck if you have a toilet bowl. If not, start focusing on those rookie picks.
That's right. And because of the holidays coming up, this will be our last pod of the year. But back in January, we'll be hopping back on. Hopefully, some of us have some titles to talk about, maybe some gear to be wearing on the pod. But if you're in the playoffs, good luck to you, and happy holidays to everyone, and a happy New Year.
See you in 2025.
Peace.
Of the NSFW Dynasty podcast. Tune in next time.